We're here at the Parisi Speed School of Morristown, and I am here with Bill Parisi, the founder of Parisi's. Most people don't know this, but there are over 100 locations nationwide of Parisi's. They've been in business for the last 25 years when Bill got it started. And so I wanted Bill to come in today to talk a little bit about the science of performance training. And a lot of people don't realize there's a science behind it, and the ones they do, they wonder what the difference is from location to location, meaning one business to another, not Parisi to Parisi, but anybody that calls himself performance training. So it's different, you know, as a performance coach and as a owner of a Parisi, I find myself answering questions about performance training with parents all the time. And you know, the first thing I would say is it's more than setting up agility cones, speed ladders, hurdles, and just running through a series of things, conditioning someone and, you know, just exhausting them to death. There's actually science behind it, and that's a pretty big nut to crack. So Bill, in all these years, he spends a lot of his time now making sure that all the Parisi locations have the best science to inform our methodologies. So Bill, talk to us a little about, you know, performance training from that science perspective.
Sure, absolutely, Jeff, and thanks for having me. You know, it's funny when you say the science of speed training, because 25 plus years ago, not many people thought you can even improve speed.
Right, thought you're born with it.
Thought you're born with it, and when I started teaching it, people didn't believe it until they took a session or two and realized, wow, I feel quicker, I feel lighter on my feet. So we've evolved so much.
Oh, it might have helped too from your first client.
Yes.
So
yes.
tell us who that was.
Well, I had a young, actually not a young, but a 17-year-old athlete. One of my first clients, his name was T.J. Fay from St. Joe's Regional High School. Tony Karsich, the legendary coach up there. He came to me privately, one-on-one. I was living at home. I had a van. I didn't even have a facility. Right. And the first breakthrough was we trained them, I trained them, it wasn't we, it was just me, out of a van at a local high school track. And after about 8 weeks of training, we went the whole summer, the second part of that summer, into his camp. He went from a 4.6 to a 4.4 in his 40-yard dash, and Coach Karsich couldn't believe it. And he was really, excited about it, and it just took off from there. So that was.
And that's huge numbers. If you don't know what, that 0.2 of a point is on a 40,
yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we're talking, that was 25 years ago.
Right.
1993, that was. So it was.
But now the science has evolved.
The science has caught up to the training. That's typically how it works. I mean, a lot of methodologies are pioneered by coaches, and then science catches up now. Not all methodologies. There's some really dangerous methodologies that, absolutely, like you said, what's the difference between Parisi's and maybe some other facilities? The first difference is, we have a system. We have a proven system based on science that has been validated by science, but also validated by a lot of experience and success. So when you think about improving speed, performance, power, strength, and most importantly, building injury resiliency, right? You gotta have a strategy, a philosophy, you gotta have a system. And that's what we've created over the last 25 years. We continue to evolve by the experience that we've gained training our athletes, the training programs that we put our athletes through, the feedback we get from those programs, and what the research is saying. So everything we do is backed by peer-reviewed research, public research that is out there in the marketplace. You can go to Google and search it on Google Scholar and find this research by guys like Peter Weyand, who's done groundbreaking research out of Harvard University, now out of SMU, on force production and what it takes to be fast, and what do you need to be fast. So
and you know Peter, you've talked with him.
We've conversed numerous times and talked about his research and what does it mean and how does it apply, and his research really talks about the ability to generate force quickly, and what does that mean and how do you get that, and that's what we have been incorporating. This research has helped validate and clarify a lot of the things we do. There's other guys like Dr. Stuart McGill, who is the leading researcher on core stability and low back pain and strength. Dr. McGill has published over 250 peer-reviewed research studies. That's mind-boggling. 250 peer-reviewed, the leading expert on the core and the spine, and really understanding what it takes to create true athleticism. And he defines it as pulsing. Athleticism is the ability to pulse a muscle and create high amounts of speed in your extremities, right? Because when you think about the human body, your core is your foundation. And I like to use the analogy as if you were to shoot a cannon out of a canoe or a rowboat, right? You get a lot of blowback. There's no stability. Well, what would you do to create stability? You take that cannon, you put it on a block of cement, and you bolt it in, right? So it's stable. That cannon thing can fire. Well, your core, and I define the core as everything between the two shoulder joints and the two hip joints. This whole thing, this trunk, I like to define as the core, and that has to be locked and stable and stiff. So your limbs, your legs, and your arms can move super fast, and they can move faster with a stable core. If you have energy leaks coming out of the core, that's like you're shooting the cannon out of the canoe. So we learn to stabilize that, and Dr. McGill's research shows that. His techniques on how to create core stiffness, and that's kind of a little bit of a paradox when you think about, we want to create stiffness, right? A lot of people think of stiffness, that's not good, we got to be flexible.
Yes.
No, we want the core to be stiff. We train for stiffness in the core so we can maximize that extremity, speed. So we call it distal speed, performed by proximal stability. So this is the proximal stability by that distal limb that can create speed. So think about it. If I'm running and I'm like, all over the place with my core and shoulders, I'm losing energy. I'm leaking energy. So there's a lot of research that backs that, how we train that, how we go about that, along with a lot of other things.
So let me ask you this. How does it go from what you're looking at, and I know I've met Dr. McGill with you, and I know he's spoken at a lot of things we're a part of. How do you take that research from those guys at a high level and pump it out to 100 plus facilities into methodology?
Yeah.
What does that go through to get there?
Well, what's interesting is, over the last 25 years, we've been putting out methodology, and the research has helped validate what we do, but help kind of mold it a little bit. I mean, based on certain research, we took certain exercises out of the program, we added some new ones in, and it's kind of, always, evaluating and adjusting. So what the biggest piece the research has done for me in terms of creating the curriculum is really identify how to program for different athletes. So, when we look at an athlete, and we always program our Jumpstart, our total performance, our younger athletes, 7 to 11, our total performance athletes, our 12 to 15, 16, then our peak athletes. Their programming is obviously unique to their level and their needs, but now it's becoming a lot more unique to their individual needs in terms of what kind of athlete are they? Are they more of a connective tissue athlete? What does that mean? Well, the greatest example of a connective tissue, athlete is like a Kevin Durant, right? Compared to a LeBron James. LeBron James is more of a muscular athlete. Kevin Durant's more of a connective tissue athlete. And you kind of put both of them together, and you have someone like Russell Westbrook, if you're a basketball fan, right? I mean, he's an explosive, little muscular, real super powerful. Well, you have a lot of different things going on, but so there are systems. So you have your muscular system, your nervous system, and something that's new and cutting edge is the connective tissue system. Ligaments, tendons, fascia.
Yep.
There's a lot of new science coming out about fascia, which is like the cellophane wrapping that holds our internal organs and muscles together and helps them work in unison. So if you ever eat chicken and, like a chicken,
sinew.
It's the sinew. That's fascia, and the science is now showing how this fascia plays a huge role in our ability to react and be quick and explode, and the elastic energy that can be stored in fascia is something that we didn't truly understand until now, and fascia can be trained.
So let me say this. Does that go, so you learn that, you take that, and I know you're on the leading edge of that stuff for the company. So do you take that then, you bring it where I know we have a number of master coaches.
Yep.
Then you'll bring it there, and then you'll discuss that, we'll talk about that.
Sure.
And then you'll bring that down into.
Yep. Well, we have an advisory board committee,
Yep.
A research and advisory board of guys like Dr. McGill and different world-renowned experts like Ken Clark and Dan Path, all the PhDs, and they all do a lot of research. And Dan he's coached over 24 Olympic and world champion track and field athletes.
Yep.
So guys that I converse with and have learned from their experience in research, we'll bring to our committee. So that research and development committee, then we'll bring that down to our coaches committee, our 4 to 6 master coaches that we have. We'll discuss what gets carved out into our curriculum, how does it get put into the different types of programs, the Jumpstart, and we'll add it where we know we have an hour, we know we have to manage time, we know we have kids on average 2 to 4 hours a week. Some kids come in 2 hours a week on average, some kids come in 3, 4, some kids come in 1. So what is the biggest bang for your buck in that training session? Something we call training economy. What's going to give you the highest return for the the best drill that we're going to perform, and what's really the safest drill we can perform. And in that, what's the risk factor, right? Because everything you do, you go and you train, you exercise, there's always an element of risk, when you're training, and we always want to minimize risk, maximize return on that time and that drill, and at the same time, make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck.
It's investment. That's what it is. It's where you're investing and how much time.
Complete
Let me ask this.
investment.
It is rare to find a performance place that trains kids down to the 7-year-old level.
Yes.
So what made you think you could do that? What made you choose that group? Why not? Because so many start them at the high school level and go up. Tell us about that.
That age, there's so much plasticity. They're more plastic at that age, meaning their nervous systems are still developing and their muscles are still developing. What a great environment to teach them motor skill.
Right.
So when we talk about motor skill, speed is a skill. That's one of our phrases. It's one of our key elements to the Parisi Speed School. And accelerating, decelerating, running at top speed, changing direction, these are all motor skills. So we all have a quote-unquote motor vocabulary, right? And tying your shoe is a motor vocabulary. Signing your name is a motor vocabulary. We have a motor vocabulary where we want to teach kids motor vocabulary on how to move on the athletic field. I equate it very much to a martial artist. So a parent wouldn't think twice about maybe enrolling their 5-year-old into Taekwondo. Right. You go into Taekwondo, and when they go in, they're a white belt. And when they punch, they kind of look like this, and they're kind of a lot of energy leaks. Right. They're not real stable. But as you practice that motor skill 3 days a week, consistent, after a while, after a few months, reps, you go from a white belt to maybe a yellow belt, and then an orange belt, and after a year or two, you're brown belt, and after 3 or 4 or 5 years, maybe you're a junior black belt at 10 years old, and you see this kid, unbelievable athlete. Well, he didn't start that way, and what did he do? He didn't lift weights. He learned skill. He practiced the skill on how to punch and kick, and ultimately in martial arts, when you really think about the ability to learn that skill to punch and kick, that's a sport. You go into a ring, you spar, you have to react, respond, and you want to generate force. When you compete in martial arts, you're generating force through your fist into a bag or an opponent, or through your foot. In speed, in athleticism, we're doing the same thing, but we're putting the force into the ground.
Right.
And the reaction is moving our body quicker. So the holy grail, the essence of being a more explosive and faster athlete, is how fast we can put force into the ground.
Yes.
It's the rate of force production into the ground. So if a martial artist can get started at 5 years old and train their body to do certain things to generate force, and they teach stiffness and core stability and movements, we do the same thing for speed. That's what makes Parisi different from all these other programs, and why we can start them at 7 years old, because we have our athletic katas, if you will. In martial arts, you have your training kata, your warm-up ritual, if you will. We have our warm-up ritual, the Parisi warm-up kata. Then we have our change of direction kata, our acceleration kata, our top speed training kata. All these, training modalities are dialed down systems and protocols with specific drills, specific cues, specific order, sequencing to create this motor vocabulary, to create this movement skill, so it becomes what is called unconsciously competent. Because riding a bike, a young child, they don't know what a bike is when they're 6 months old, and they can't ride a bike. That's called unconsciously incompetent.
Yes.
When they become 1, 2 years old, they know what a bike is, but they can't ride it. That's called consciously incompetent. And then They start riding it with training wheels. They're learning it. This is where that motor skill and the richness of that, what we call motor engram, that neural pathway, they're riding the bike with training wheels, and they're highly focused on balancing. And then when you first take the training wheels off, it's very focused on balancing and having
Right.
that fine motor skill to balance. That's called consciously competent. And then they're 7, 8 years old. They can eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and
Second
ride a bike.
nature.
They're not thinking, they're trying to pop a wheelie, they're skidding.
Right.
That's called unconsciously competent. That's what we do with movement.
That's a
with
great
skill.
description.
I mean, that's how we teach it. And at 7 years old, see, that is the richest time to embed motor skill. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at all great skill athletes over the years, good chance hitting a baseball, hitting a golf ball. They learn skill at a young age.
Oh, yeah. You're helping coordination. You're helping them get that early start. You're not breaking bad habits yet, or less of them.
You have less bad habits. And here's the other big breakthrough we have at the Parisi Speed School that we've seen. When a young athlete learns proper movement techniques, such as how to just accelerate, how to decelerate, how to run, how to move their arms, they have much better body control. And that has lent itself, and this is anecdotal just from our own experience, has lent itself for athletes to respond and be more effective in their actual sports skill.
Right.
Whether it be hitting a baseball or kicking a soccer ball
Yep.
or throwing or catching a football, because they're just more, greater awareness of their extremities and,
Right.
and better motor control overall. You know, when you think about great athletes, they can golf, they can play basketball,
Yep.
they have this tremendous motor control, and our training helps motor
Absolutely.
control.
Yeah, we see it
And
all the time.
It helps develop that motor control.
It was amazing to me. That was one of the big things when I came to Parisi's is seeing that these young kids, 7, 8, 9 years old, could actually learn a lot of that stuff, gain control of the body, become more confident because of that, going out there, and and then the results are there. I mean, we say this all the time: speed kills. What sport do you not need speed in? So you're training them, they're getting it, and we see it all the time. So that's an exciting piece.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to leave it there for this segment. And I just want to say thanks to Bill for coming in. Bill is, again, on top of this all the time. So I hope you really got a lot of takeaways from this segment. If you have questions on this or you're interacting with it through social media or the website, ask us questions, make some comments. We'll have Bill back again and answer that next battery of questions going on. Bill, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure. Thank you.